Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Florida, Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Thank you for that warm reception. If you don't mind me saying so, I think vindication looks pretty good on me. But there is no time to celebrate. I sense a true uneasiness around our country right now. Here at home, we see layoffs by the thousands. We're concerned that the jobs for Americans aren't generating higher wages. More and more companies are suspending their plans for promotions and capital investment and growth. It bears a stark and concerning contrast to the roaring Trump economy, where we made things and produced things and were the envy of the world. And there seems to be no end in sight for the government-induced inflation that the Biden administration would want to visit upon all of us. And when we look to the world, it's not much different. We've got a president who stumbles up and down the stairs of Air Force One as his policies stumble across Europe. I think we had to spend 4 or 5 days asking the Chinese spy balloon what its pronouns were before we were willing to shoot it down. And so, in times of concern, throughout all of human history, people have looked to leaders for inspiration and courage and guidance. And increasingly, when Americans look to Washington, D.C., we see but husks of humans, vessels through which the foreign interests abroad and the special interests here at home operate. And so I am proud to stand before you as the only Republican in the United States Congress who refuses all donations from every lobbyist and political action committee. Their money is no good with me. I work for you and you alone. I am on a mission to change Washington, D.C., because Washington is a deeply corrupt place. You saw the work of that mission during the election of the Speaker earlier this year. And if you believed the mainstream media, we wanted crazy things. We were this wild group of radicals who actually thought we should have a few days to read legislation before we vote on it. We had extreme ideas, like the bills before our consideration should comport to a single subject, so that I wouldn't have to vote on the farm bill the same time I'm voting on war powers in Yemen. We thought we really could send a shock through the system with a requirement that the amendments to bills actually be germane to the subject area of the bill. We thought that bureaucrats who had turned against the American people should have their salaries singled out so we could vote against them. Imagine if we could have voted against the salary of Dr. Fauci years ago. What a better place America would have been. And instead of governing by omnibus, where our representatives have to look at some multi-thousand-page piece of legislation that spends $1.7 trillion, where you got to vote for the VA at the same time you're voting for the Department of Education, where you're having to vote for the equipment for our troops the same time you're voting for the woke policies of the Department of Labor. We will never legislate by omnibus again. We will individually consider the budgets of the agencies of our government and give them the thorough review that they deserve. But perhaps the most important concession that we received during that fight was the establishment of a special group of legislators to analyze the weaponization of this government against our people. Seems like every time I turn around, they're engaged in surveillance or list building or monitoring, and I don't care if it takes every second of our time and every ounce of our energy. We either get this government back on our side or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them, if they do not come to heel. And I don't think it's too much to ask. I really don't. And in this effort, I must update you on an important update. We have been taking whistleblower testimony from brave patriots, people who worked at the FBI and saw things like targeting Americans who attended school board meetings, like labeling people domestic extremists because they expressed support for building the wall or the Second Amendment online. We had FBI agents telling us that they were cooking the books, where there would be normally one case that you would open up on domestic extremism. You had the Washington field office putting pressure on agents to open up separate cases on each individual so that there would be the veneer, the illusion, the appearance that all of our fellow Americans, that our neighbors, were somehow extreme and trying to overthrow our government, when in fact that is not the case. And so we took the deposition of a brave patriot named Garrett O'Boyle, who served in the FBI, who shared with us these things. And yesterday, Judiciary Democrats put out a smear piece on him. They took really out of context portions of his testimony, and they tried to discredit what he shared with us as a whistleblower because he's a vaccine skeptic. And because when the FBI left him without pay and without the ability to earn other income, there were people who gave him a few $1,000s so that he was able to buy a winter coat for his children and be able to meet the month's bills. So we have an active case where we're working to corroborate this information, to build the evidence, and Democrats are obstructing the investigation. And so it is no longer time to go back to the old low-energy Paul Ryan, Trey Gowdy days of fake oversight. These are the Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz days. And if the Democrats are going to obstruct our investigation, then I am calling to remove the Democrats from our investigation. They shouldn't be allowed to sit in the depositions and hear the evidence if they are going to use that to try to get in the way of thorough, rigorous oversight. And I don't believe that means hearings where we yell at people. I think that means a fundamental reshaping of this government, a reshaping of this town. I know every time I give talks like this and meet with our great activists, I always get a question at some point where people say, do you still have hope? Can we even still save this thing, this great experiment? And I know we can. And here's what I would say. Even though at your job it may feel like you're outnumbered, sometimes even in your social groups, it may feel like you can't wave your MAGA flag at full mast. But I saw what a group of parents did in Loudoun County who at first were outnumbered. I saw what pilots did at Southwest Airlines who stood up against a vaccine mandate. I saw what Navy SEALs did who got injunctions so that now we are in a position to, in a Republican House of Representatives, restore every one of our military patriots with their full rank and back pay. And all of you saw what 20 members of the House of Representatives did when we demanded change in a corrupt town. These are different times. They are new times. They call for boldness and patriotism. It is the honor of my life to fight alongside each and every one of you. Go to MattGaetz.com, join my fight, vote for Donald J. Trump in the CPAC straw poll, and let's go get him. Thank you.